Often, we're not just drawn to the car, but the potential the car holds, and the fourth and most famous generation of Toyota Supra gave us more potential than any other car since. Everyone loves rooting for the underdog. Seeing a budget car from an unsuspecting brand like Toyota destroy a purpose-built supercar will never get old. However, unlike its rival the GTR, the Supra wasn't born a legend, but an uninspiring weak attempt at a sports car. So how did Toyota revive the Supra name into arguably one of the most formidable supercar slayers to date? And why does it seem like some people are starting to hate the fourth generation of Supra?
For 1981, the Toyota Celica Supra gets recharged.
1978 brought us the first generation of Toyota Supra, or rather, the Celica Supra. The Supra as a standalone model didn't exist yet. With an inline-six engine directly derived from the legendary 2000 GT and a helping hand from Lotus, the Celica Supra was destined to be everything Toyota needed to take on Nissan's beloved 240Z. Sharp, stylish, fast, and desirable. The result was a slow, unengaging, and generally boring sports car. With a lukewarm reception upon release, something needed to change if the Supra even stood a chance against Mazda's RX-7 and the 240Z. 1981. Just 3 years later, Toyota had already given up on the disappointing first gen when the second generation was released. The Mark II was a huge step in the right direction. In fact, more than a huge step. The Mark II was just a flat-out great car. Stunning to look at, faster, sharper, and more engaging. With Car and Driver saying that the new Supra is a nearly perfect car, and Motor Trend awarding the Supra 1982 Import Car of the Year. Initially producing 145 horsepower from a twin-cam 2.8-litre inline-six, later bumped to 160 horsepower in the 1984 model, the 5MGE was more powerful and full of character. The Gen 2 also marked the Supra's first real step into racing, entering the British Touring Car Championship and a few others. It wasn't hugely successful on the track, but it laid the foundation for what would become a rich motorsport heritage for the Supra name. This success translated into sales. Toyota sold nearly double the 63,000 Mark I Supras produced. Doubling sales was all the proof Toyota needed. It was time to go all in on the Supra.
Now the Supra dynasty begins. Who could ask for anything more?
In 1986, Toyota launched the third generation Supra. This time the Supra was no longer just a Celica derivative. The Celica switched to front-wheel drive, while the Supra remained rear, making its official split into a standalone model. While this was a bold move, the Mark III's road to success wasn't exactly smooth. Reviews were mixed, with many criticising the Supra's handling once again. The Mark III had gained 225 kilos, or 400 pounds, and didn't dance with as much precision as its older brother. Despite this, the Mark III had its highlights. From 1990 onwards, Japanese buyers got the option of the 1JZ GTE, the 2.5-litre turbo inline-six that later powered cars like the Chaser and the Sora. The 1JZ was highly tunable and had an unmistakable sound. But unfortunately, it never made it to the US or European markets. The Supra was evolving, but it still wasn't quite a supercar slayer. That would come next. 1993 arrives and the Mark IV Supra was unveiled. This car was serious. Now in the same performance leagues as cars like the Dodge Viper and the 911 Turbo, and for a fraction of the cost. The Supra offered incredible performance alongside the comforting embrace of Toyota reliability. Not many people know the Supra for anything else other than its tuning potential and straight-line ability, but many forget that this car was a benchmark for performance in its day. With brakes so good, it had the best stopping distance of any car tested by Car and Driver in the 90s, even outperforming supercars, all while in stock form. The flagship model was equipped with an engine you may just have heard of. The 2JZ GTE was capable of 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds and produced 320 horsepower. It was insanely fast for the price tag. This was all a monumental leap forward for the Supra name, but for the Mark IV, it was only going to get better. It didn't take long for the tuner scene to start modifying the Supra. This is where they learned that the 2JZ was hilariously overbuilt. With its heavy and robust iron block, the sky was the limit. There were even talks of 4-figure horsepower numbers, an absurd amount of power in the 90s. This is something many enthusiasts seem to forget nowadays. 320 horsepower is nothing crazy by today's standards, but it was at the time of release, and is certainly still quick today. The Mark IV Supra in particular has gone through an odd life cycle. Upon release, it was praised and generally well received. This grew and grew with help of series like The Fast and the Furious and its features in numerous video games. The hype grew so much that it was no longer cool to love the Supra. Many individuals argue that it was slow, and it was only so popular because of Fast and Furious. I believe this to be untrue. Perhaps the Mark IV is a little overhyped. It became mainstream, and it's common when something becomes mainstream for contrarian enthusiasts to argue against it, because it's no longer cool or different to like it. It's a bit like finding that small niche band that you really like, and then becoming famous worldwide. It's just not the same anymore, but they may very well be just as good. This is understandable, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the Supra was hyped for so much more than just Fast and Furious. 2JZs are still one of the most robust and tunable engines ever built. They're still common use in Formula D, where 1000 horsepower plus engines are given endless rev limiter thrashing abuse. All this on an engine that's more than 30 years old. Even if the 2JZ wasn't as robust, the Supra was still an impressive car in its day, and discrediting it as slow without any acknowledgement that everything released in the 90s was significantly slower than modern cars is a hollow argument. The Supra has gone from underrated to overrated and is now overhated by many. If only prices reflected this, then I could buy one since they're so slow and This ties into my statement at the beginning of this video. Everyone loves an underdog. With more than 20 years of hype, the Supra isn't really an underdog anymore. It's actually quite the opposite. If you have the rare opportunity to pull up next to a Mark IV Supra at a red light, you already assume it's not even worth trying. In that sense, the Mark IV Supra was a victim to its own brilliance. It's no longer cool to say your favourite car is a Supra, but in case you couldn't tell, mine still is.